First one blows me away. If I had to pick one quote to say exactly what status you're in maintenance, it would be the first quote. If you told me to give you one line, then shut up and never say anything. I would say, I went to pick up a glove and realized it was a repair. And then there was a rubber glove sitting there somewhere, and the person went out to pick it up like it was trash, and you realized it wasn't trash, it was a repair. They take cement, they put it over, and they flux it. We could go through that plan, we will be able to find little gloves all over the place. The other ones, somebody breakdowns a plank, goes out the window, you get into a treadmill, you get into a cycle, and once you get into the cycle, I have seen this for my entire career. This is not abnormal. This is normal for a maintenance operation that once it starts to get out of control. We got behind, this is a good one, we got behind in the beginning and are still catching up. I have commissioned, the focus of this study was not to go back and find out what happened at the beginning. But I talked to enough people who were here at the beginning, and I said, how did you bring this plant up? You did it all wrong. I'm telling you, you did everything wrong. I have commissioned gas plants for Exxon, where I was involved with them from the day we had that on a piece of board to when we built a little model of it until we brought the plant up. And the way we did it was we hired all of our workers 6 months in advance. We had training, formal training for everybody and equipment specific. We had them on the plant site talking to the vendors as we were building the plant. And when we turned that plant on, smooth. And I'm talking about a plant called Las Flores Canyon, which is in Santa Barbara County. Do you realize how difficult it was to get a permit to build that plant in Santa Barbara County? How careful we had to be? And when we brought that plant up, it went up, and we had 3 big platforms that were feeding us. We couldn't be down. We had to get it right. Because we didn't have a lot of storage, because it's Santa Barbara County, they weren't gonna give us a big tank. But we brought that thing up right, and all the years I worked with them, that place ran just perfectly. No violations, no nothing, incredible uptime. Because we paid up front, you're gonna pay in the front, you're gonna pay in the back. You started this thing up wrong at the very beginning, and you're paying for it now, because you're just chasing yourselves. You really needed to have done it like Exxon did it, spend the money up front to really train people, figure out what's going on. The plant comes up and it runs. Right now, you're chasing yourselves. And it all goes back to the fact that we got behind in the very beginning. And you're continuing to get behind. It isn't gonna get any better. Other ones, maintenance kids work like dogs. These poor guys, mechanics out there, they work so hard. It's amazing. We don't run the plant runs us. We get to that point where you're chasing stuff, the plant starts. I look at it as the plant's eating itself. You know, I've never put it quite that way, but I think when we have high on plant work, get up and get it running philosophy, Band-Aids on Band-Aids on Band-Aids. Which goes back to the first one. It's you're having Band-Aids on your Band-Aids. We clean the same thing over and over again. We still don't fix it right. We need to hold people accountable for not preparing things properly. Accountability was something that came up over and over again. But here's just a sprinkling of some of the quotes. But I always throw quotes into my reports because when somebody says something, it really brings them to life. Communication. Overall plant, 5 out of 10. Not good, not bad. This was really an interesting one, and there's a pattern through all of these. Inside both the mechanical and the electrical group, they rated themselves 6 out of 10 as there's very good communication within the group. But what's it do when all of a sudden the 2 groups have to start talking to each other? It drops to a 3. And it's very similar to all of these. Mechanical production was 4, electrical was a 6, mechanical and support was a 2, this was a 4, and man, with warehouse, everybody rated it a 2. Warehouse is like Home Depot.
That's over 10, right?
Huh?
Over 10, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
But one being terrible and 10 being good.
Exactly.
2 is not good. We'll talk about this when we get to that big point. People are really in silos. And there's a lot of good communication going up and down within the silo that they're in, but there's not a lot of communication horizontally between the different silos. So people don't understand what the other people are doing. They don't understand the type of work they do. They don't. And again, it all goes back to having a good daily schedule and backlogs and a bunch of other stuff. You can use those as communication tools. And when you don't have them as a communication tool, people don't know what other people are doing. So we have, the communication is mostly horizontal between groups. Within groups, it was pretty good. Here's a couple of things. Again, communication ones, people say, well, I'm going to be here to do a job. Production gets ready to sit down the job. Nobody shows up. And then they go, I'm tired of waiting. Now, because there's so much firefighting, they probably got pulled off to do something else. And nobody shows up. This is from the warehouse, from their standpoint, they're looking at it as, okay, there's all this fire go out there. We're the last people to find out that they're fighting fire and they need park. Training, wow, this was the hardest one for us. I'm used to being in environments like I'll be in Houston or I'll be somewhere where there's lots of heavy industry and there's community colleges set up for heavy industry and all the workers in that area, their father, their grandfather probably worked in heavy industry in the oil and gas industry or something, and they all can walk into a plant and see all these pumps and all these motors and all this stuff and they see it and they know what they have. That's the environment I'm usually used to working with. This environment is in the middle of a national forest, a long way away from the next stop of heavy industry. If I'm a mechanic in Prescott, Arizona, I'm mostly working on a car. And if I'm a car mechanic and I go up to Drake and I walk in the door, I am clueless. If I'm an electrician working in a house in Prescott and I go up to Drake and I walk in the door, okay, I've got some electrical background, but I don't have a clue how to run anything. I've never seen anything ADD. I have no idea. You got to work for something. You have a group of people that really want to work hard. When we were out in the field, did you see it? I saw people out there just really, you're lucky you have a good group of people. They feel really bad because they don't know what they're doing. And how are they supposed to know what they're doing when they haven't been adequately trained to work in heavy industry? And they haven't been. And that's a problem. Here's an example. I spent a day in the field with a group of people who really worked hard, which I put on planned work. They had a job. They looked at it. They didn't know how to do it, so they got on the internet. They looked at schematics. They looked at everything. These people were really clever. They figured out how to do it, and they worked really hard. And then they got to the end of the day, and they went to plug in 2 cables, and they realized, oh, they don't fit. They had the wrong part. Now, they worked really hard. That's not their fault. Think how they felt when I watched them all day long. And they went to plug the 2 things in, and it didn't fit. They were embarrassed. But it wasn't because they didn't work hard. It's because they need some training on some stuff, guys. I mean, you got equipment up there that's just not like normal stuff. Every industry is different, and this is probably the biggest problem. This is a big dilemma because we can't walk out in this community and find people who know what you do. You're either going to have to go somewhere else and pay more and find some people, or we came up with some, when we get to the recommendations, we have some ideas on how to do this. But this was, of all of them, this was the hardest one for us to figure out how to crack. Other ones was, on-the-job training has got 2 problems. One, there's no common standards. You got 5 people out there doing OJT with somebody, they can teach them 5 different people a different way of doing it. There's no standard. The other thing is situation. If I don't see it, I don't learn. So I'm learning something on OJT, and now I'm on an off shift, and something happens. I've never seen it before. I don't know. It's just not a good way to do it. But you don't have the economy of scale to have a training department. If this was a huge refinery or a big chemical complex for Exxon, we could have a huge training department because they have the economies of scale. This is a really small plant. It's very, very, very small. So it really creates some problems. The other thing is your supervisors and your maintenance planners really need to go back to this match-up stuff. Match-up, follow-up, assignment stuff. Learn how to do backlogs, and some basic training on how to do some stuff here. Reporting. Well, I know there's some big cost data that you can look at. There was almost nothing below that level to be able to say, why am I having these costs? I'm used to having maintenance reports that are very specific, starting with how many man hours did we have, man hours of work, estimated actual work, taking a look at your backlogs, are they going up, are they going down, emergency report going up and going down. We could fill in a whole sheet of things that we need to track from a maintenance standpoint, so as managers, we can say, are we getting better or are we getting worse? And how can we get control? Where do I have to go in and have corrective action? What do I need to fix? Well, we need to highlight what's wrong. We can see a big number of cost data that we can look at. We can see the emergency levels of work that we know are bad, but we're not getting down, drilling down to be able to say specifically what action as manager do I have to do to solve this problem. So this was the easiest question I had to answer. You didn't have it. Virtually nothing. Warehouse, this is the biggest thing. The other thing is, I was able to go up to the warehouse and find stuff. I walk around, it's pretty clean, and the cycle counting is getting better, it's going in the right direction. Huge knowledge of SAP up there that everybody can learn from. But here's the biggest problem. It's like a castle. You know, I go up there to do interviews and I can't even get in the building. You know, and I'm going, this is crazy. This is really crazy. You got 2 warehouses. They're locked up 24/7 where you need permission to get in the door. That's just not a physical barrier, it's a psychological barrier. Because I started having the psychological barrier of, oh, I've got to go up there, and I would think to myself, oh, I've got to go up to the castle and get permission to get in the door. I've never been anywhere in my entire career where I couldn't walk into a warehouse. Now, that didn't mean I walked into a warehouse and there were secured areas inside the warehouse, but I could at least get in the front door to talk to a human being. Here, you can't even get in the door. So this is the biggest thing. They are basically considered like a Home Depot. You know, I got to looking at them like they weren't even part of the plant. They're just a separate thing out there. They do really well operating within their group. I was quite impressed once I got in. Fleetwood was a pretty good shop. The problem is the communication from that group locked up where they are with the rest of the plant is the tube. It's terrible. So we have some ideas when we get to recommendations on how we can do that. Yeah, so the big thing is everybody needs to start working together. I know different groups out there now have mini warehouses that they've stashed in parts of the plant where they are using the warehouse as a Home Depot, as a warehouse operation. They go up and they get stuff and then they bring it back to the little mini part of the plant where they start putting stuff because they knew going up there and dealing with them is just too much of an effort. And that's what you don't want to see as our happening. Safety. Key figure, 95 hours in the field and we didn't get anybody hurt. This is really good. I like this. I've never, you know, I'm amazed every time I go places. Every place I go does some stuff that I've never seen before that's really good. What I like about Drake is you can do 2 things. One, you can, like you do your crusher one day, finish mill one day. You have a process where you can stop stuff and do it by day. I've never had that luxury before in maintenance. I think that's really cool. This saves a lot. When you're doing on-plant jobs in the field, this saves it. If you didn't have this, I think you'd have a lot of problems. Every time I saw it, every time we were in the field, faithfully 100%, people did this. And after a while, they get used to being, so they weren't doing it because we were with them, because after a while, they kind of forget that we're there. I was on one job where I was actually, shouldn't have been, but I was using some tools. I was helping them out, and because I touched them, the minute I touched it, I had to sign off and do all this stuff too. 100%. When you're doing on-plan jobs, you need somebody to go, okay, we really need to stop and go through a checklist here. At Exxon, they called it take 2. It was very similar. Right before you did something, everybody would stop and say, hey, let's just take 2, take a deep breath here. What do we have? Because we don't want anybody to get hurt. This is great. If you didn't have this, I think you'd have some people get hurt. Because it is job planning. It's job planning at exactly the worst spot, right, as you're doing the job. But it's better than nothing. So this is pretty good. I think these numbers are pretty good for a safety operation. And for maintenance, the only thing that's going to make them safer is not the safety department saying be safe, it's planned jobs. We have to move to planned jobs. Then we automatically take safety and we bring it up a whole notch. So then the housekeeping is 3.2, 3.2. I mean, I'm surprised that those to me are high numbers given the fact that it's terrible. I think this one's a good one. We're lucky now. And I think the question you have to have is how we fix some of these things is how lucky do you think you can be for how long? We're putting Band-Aids on Band-Aids. True. No crooked. Glad with the spills from what I've seen. Very true. But here's the big one. This is the big one you got to focus on. We're lucky not good. I think you're good too. But eventually your luck will run out if you don't have one plant work. Okay, we're out. The mechanics have the hardest job, without a doubt. They get worked hard, lots of overtime, and they don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. The morale's the lowest, but it's simply because of the grueling part of the work. They're out there working hard. I bet a lot of people I really liked, but they're looking out there and they see no light at the end of the tunnel. And as a result, they're going, how long can I keep doing this? You've had a lot of turnover in that group. I do not think it's pay, it is the work itself, and the fact that there's no turnover. If they could see a light at the end of the tunnel, I think you wouldn't have the turnover. If we can show them a plan that's gonna get you there, I think you can retain more people. They're leaving because they're looking at it going, I can't work in this chaotic environment, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and this is damn hard work, and I'm getting worked like a dog, and I can't do it. That's what, you could give them more money, Mr. Lynn, because you're not addressing the real issue of why they're leaving, which is, I can't do this anymore. Electrical group is much higher, the work's better. The level of unscheduled emergency work is much lower. Therefore, they're able to accomplish more and feel better when they leave at the end of the day, that they actually got a good day's work done, because they only did, say, 30% emergency versus 70. So theirs is much better. Production, we found, was very, you've talked, very optimistic.
Yes, yeah, very optimistic. They really enjoy the environment, like the people they work with, and they care a lot about the plant, where they work, and who they work with as well.
And also the support groups across the board, every one of those, they were quite optimistic. We really liked their jobs, liked the people they worked with. There was only one thing that everybody had in common, and this is very similar. I've run across this before, and I have a solution for it. When you get into these, what I call slotted type organizational structures, there's nowhere for anybody to go. So if they're there, they're looking at it, they're going, you know, here I am, I'm at this level, and I'm looking at it, oh, who's gonna move, who's gonna retire, whatever, and they see nowhere to go. It's very deflating, because it basically takes control out of their life. They can show up and just, you know, go through the motions, but there's gonna be nothing to work toward to go. I've seen this before. I came up with a system at Exxon to fix it. I should give you my ideas, you can shape it to do what you want. There's a doable way to fix this. But across the board, and especially the ones who really they're harder chargers, you know, they want to be able to see somewhere that they can go. And right now, the way your organizational structure is, everybody's just blocked. You know, that'd be the best way to put it. Everybody's blocked. And then when they're blocked, and there's a team of people below that blockage, you know, and one of them maybe someday might get promoted, well, it doesn't do the best thing to promote teamwork, you know? What you want is that whole team working together, not going, well, I want to be better than somebody else. So anyway, I've come up with a way to take care of that. So on the whole, given the environment these guys are working in, you know, with housekeeping and, you know, everything, the morale is a lot higher than I thought it was. A lot higher than I thought it was going to be. That is a very difficult, I've worked in a lot of difficult environments. That is a difficult environment to work in. So here's some of the things. These are really good quotes that we got to go through. I have a problem with management not taking suggestions. Here's one thing that we've heard pretty much across the board. I give an idea into the system, and it goes into a black hole, and I never hear anything. Nobody said they came back to me and told me I was stupid, but they came back and said, no, we're not going to do it. But I got 100%. I don't know, you guys, I never heard anything. I never heard anything. So that's something as managers we can all improve on. These two are terrible, but you know, I had to put them on there. If you shut up and do what we told you, make it here. None of us want to hear something like that. But obviously somewhere along the line, I call it shut up and call it. I'm always teaching my students this. That the last thing you ever want your workers to get into their head is that you want them to show up and shut up and call it. Because I've got too many plants in my life where that was encouraged. That was the dominant management philosophy. It was Frederick Taylor, industrial engineering. We've got this all figured out, you dummies. You show up, here's your coloring book, here's your colors, you go color, and if you have an idea, if you don't ask me, shut up. And you see these people walk in every day and they check their brains, and they sit down with their coloring books, and you get about 50% productivity out of them if you're lucky. And they can have the greatest idea in the world, they're never going to raise their hand because they'll be told to shut up and color. Obviously, somebody out there was told to shut up and color. And it's stuck in their head. This is the one that's the killer. If you shut up and do, yeah, this one. I checked out. I was so excited when I started. I've seen this everywhere I've gone. So it's not just you. I saw it once at an Exxon operation that I was with these people, and they'd just been hired. Can you imagine the thought of just being hired by Exxon? They make a ton of money, great environment, it's about as financially stable as you're ever going to get. And these guys were this team of people were so excited. Then I went to do another job for Exxon, and I came back to that original team, and I ran into this. I talked to some of these guys that I'd gotten to know. And I went back to their managers and said, what the hell did you do to them? Who said what? Something happened. I think it's happened to everybody in this room at one time or another when we had a job. Earlier, think back of all the jobs we had. I started working in machine shops when I was 14. I worked my way up. I've had all these jobs, and some of the jobs I went in I was really excited for, and something happened, and you hit a little click, and you go, I don't care anymore. But to be able to say, I have checked out. I was excited, because that's what you want. I was excited, but I'm not excited anymore. Now, again, it was just one person. But it's one of those things you always have, as managers, we always have to be aware of, because it's the one thing that drives us crazy. And it does happen. It doesn't make us bad managers, because it happens everywhere. Everywhere I've ever been. Getting ignored if he's just anything. Most mechanics looking for new jobs. Here's the big no career direction, firefighters burning them out. We're chasing our tails. You know, these are the things that really impact the morale stuff. Questions before we move? Because we have to get to the point of saying, did I hit a mark here? Because if the answer is yes, then the recommendations make sense. If no, we need to go back and talk about the findings, the assessment part. I talked to most of you last week to run through this to get anybody's feeling. Did we do a good job? Very much.
Yes,
I would say so.
I think so.
Recommendations. One, this is the most important one. Because if you don't come to the right conclusion on this one, we can't come back and do anything. You as management team have got to sit together and figure out a philosophy of how you run and run that plant. But I'm telling you, you cannot run it the way you're running it. It is, eating itself. If you're going to continually say, hey, just get it up and running, we need some effort for that damn next truck, I don't care if you put a glove on it. You're not getting anywhere. I equate this to stopping smoking, okay? You need a major effort. Everybody's got to say, listen, we're not going to do this. Okay? We're gonna be able to say, this is how we're gonna run it. And if we happen to miss something, okay, you're gonna pay at the front, you're gonna pay at the back, but you're gonna pay. So I look at it as you might as well pay up front, like Exxon did when they commissioned that plant. We got it right up front. Then everybody doesn't have to live a crazy life. But if you keep doing what you're doing, we could have a program that said, gee, we're gonna really reverse this, and it isn't gonna get reversed. We'll be right back out there doing firefighting, chasing our tails, and we're right back in it again. And then your workers are really, really demoralized because they went, man, this was the one chance I thought we really had to turn this thing around, and we're right back to doing it again. This one, has to be done with the people. I can give you my opinion of what I do, but I don't let it happen. I'm the consultant. It's not my client. I just give advice. But you probably will have more discussion on this one than anything else. Thanks for that. One. We're going to develop, if you let us come back, I will come back and we're going to develop a real computerized maintenance management system. We will use it within SAP. But we know that we can do this. As a matter of fact, Sultan went in and got a hold of one of his friends in Saudi Aramco, and they have a schedule in SAP that's exactly what we could use to match people up and do everything we want to do. It's already there. We're just not using it. So here's the average thing that I want to do. We're going to get a real work. We're going to use the same work request, and we're going to start using it differently. We're really going to start planning the jobs. Hopefully, we can get the equipment box activated. We're going to start planning things by priority. Better planning put on it, and then we're going to take these jobs and get good manpower estimates. One of the things we found in the field was the estimates now, people just, you know how people have a tendency to say, well, I think it's going to be 3 hours, but to be safe, let's do 4. No, if you think it's 3, it's 3. And then if you don't come in at 3, you ask yourself the question, why didn't it get done in 3? Well, it didn't get 3 because the warehouse forgot to order the parts, or something happened. If you don't find out what's happening that throws that deviation off, you keep making the same mistakes. So every time you take a job estimate and you inflate it for safety purposes, what you're doing is you're taking away the opportunity to find out what your obstacles are. They have to be correct. So we're going to have work orders where people put down what they really think. Nobody's going to walk and bang somebody over the head if a job took 5 and you estimated it at 3. We just simply need to do a critique that says, why did it take Well, maybe that it was off and it was really a 5-hour job. Maybe it wasn't a 5-hour job. Maybe it really should have been 3. And the next time we do this job, we don't want to make the same mistake again. That's how you discover mistakes. So, and then we're gonna have actual work order, actual hours put on the work order, and we're gonna do a critique. Right now, your jobs are closed out, no actual work orders go down, all the mistakes, you get nothing. Because what you have presently is, you have a system that's work documentation. That's all SAP does for you, it's work documentation. Everybody has to get a work order, and everybody has to jump through all these SAP hoops. And what do you get in return? Nothing. No value-added work whatsoever. No value-added anything. You would be better off if you just didn't even, if you don't want to do this, don't do anything. Just have a script piece of paper. You save yourself a whole bunch of time running around getting work orders and stuff, which there's no value-added time. I want to turn this into a value-added system, starting with that work order, where we really have something that's really tangible in there. We close it out, we put the hours in, and we critique what happened. Next, we go to job planning, which means different, which means we're gonna be able to have, because right now, again, jobs are planned on the work site, wrong time, by the wrong person, usually under pressure. It's not good. We want critical steps and procedures to be followed, coordination required between departments, tools, parts, material needed, accurate time estimates. Again, this goes back to our backlog, and then addressing safety and environmental concerns. So we need a better job at job planning. Here's the key thing. Once these jobs are planned, they go into a backlog. Now, everybody, when we tell you workers this, they would think I was totally crazy. But it's happened to me every place I've ever been. I've been to a lot of places where exactly the same situation you're in now. And I go to everybody and I say, listen, I want to know how much work's in this plant. All of it. Do I have 10,000 man-hours of work? Do I have 20,000 man-hours of work? Do I have 500 man-hours of work? I want to know how much work's here. And they look at me and they're, Gibson, you're crazy. Why would we want to write up all that work? We're never going to get to it. And the point is, if we do this right, we are going to get to it. And we'll get it up there and we'll be able to see what's the status of this plant, how much stuff really needs to be fixed. Then we have a benchmark number 1. We want that backlog to start going down. It will take time, but you start draining it down and you control the situation. Right now, we do not know how much work is out there. We do not know the status of how much work is out there to bring that plant up to the level you want, because people are just identifying work enough to do the next couple of days. We need backlogs. We need people to go out there and write out, I don't care if it's 1,000 hours. And then slowly plan them and put them in. Nothing goes on the schedule that all scheduled jobs within the schedule get pulled from the backlog, the part of the backlog that says this job is ready to go. It's really scheduled. I really have estimates. I know what's going on. We can do this tomorrow, and boom, boom. No jobs. Which gets us to the daily schedule. This is what has to happen. And we have the beginning of it now. We have the 1:30 meeting in the afternoon that not everybody shows up to, but we have to make that as the meeting. You show up. It is the most important planning meeting in the day. Everybody at that particular point is saying what jobs are going to get finished off the schedule, what jobs are going to have to get carried over to the new schedule, what new work from this backlog do we want, and it's a joint production maintenance meeting. Jobs get pulled from that backlog. When you walk out of that meeting, you have everything matched up. If I've got 132 man-hours of available labor tomorrow, I've got 132 hours of jobs matched up with that labor. Then immediately when that schedule's done, it goes to the control center so that the production people have it and they know what's going to have, and it also goes to the warehouse where we can now say to the warehouse, these are the jobs that we're doing tomorrow, get the parts kitting. Which is funny because this is the first thing you asked me to do when we first came out here, parts kitting. But we're finally here. But we had a lot to do before we got to parts kitting. Now warehouse, we can say to them, these are the jobs we're going to have done. 7 o'clock, we want them kitted. We want them sitting at the front door. We want to walk in, pick them up. We want our workers to be on the job site working at 7:15, not planning the jobs and picking up a tool at 10. Big difference. So this is the type of daily, this is what I'm used to seeing. There's one meeting at the end of the day that says, cement what we had, this is what we're going to do. And the nice thing is the production people now, the control room, are looking at that schedule. They're not going to give you jobs to break that schedule unless those jobs are really critical. Because they're going to look at that schedule and go, I've been waiting 3 weeks to get this job done. I want them to get it done. So I'm less likely to pull them off. And also, the people on production and the off shift will be able to say, what do they have to do overnight so that when the maintenance people show up in the morning, they're ready to go. Like if you have to get a vessel cleared, whatever it would happen to be, they would then be ready to go. And it's a great coordination tool now. Now I'm communicating with production, what am I doing tomorrow? Then we'll go to some daily schedules. From that, we'll develop a whole series of reports where we can start tracking what maintenance is doing and get us the database we need, that we can do some internal benchmarking and able to say where are we going. One of them would be man hours of backlog by electrical and finish mill. We can break it up a variety of different ways. And we can break the backlog up by priority. We can break it up by parts of the plant. We can break it up by skill, mechanical, electrical, whatever it would happen to be. So then this is going to be the important thing. Then we'll start figuring out what do we have that we have to go back up and start changing what's working, what's not working. Here's another one. I think you're at a state right now where I think when you come out of shutdown, you've got to get some groups of people together to say some root cause analysis of why is this happening over and over and over and over again and again, and really figure it out. And you just have to, and I'd include some of the workers on this too, just to get off the treadmill. You really have to stop and say, let's really figure out, why are we here 3 times a week doing this? And then, these don't have to be permanent, but we need some intervention here to get you back up, help you get off the treadmill. Without this, I don't think you're going to go anywhere. Here's the hard one. Develop a training program for the maintenance people. First, everybody has to learn SAP, and I do need to learn it. You either use it or throw it away. You just go to scraps of paper. But what you're doing now, you get nothing out of it because nobody knows enough to do it. In the warehouse, we were up there, I was talking to Flippy just the other day, he's got manuals and stuff up there to train people on how to do this stuff. And he's really, at the warehouse, they're using SAP to the point where it's really advantageous to them. They're getting a lot out of it because they're using it right. They have a lot of knowledge, and I went up there and said, can you help train everybody else here? They're more than willing. They have a whole bunch of manuals. Everybody's got to learn how to do this. If you do, then you're really going to be able to get something out of it. So that's one. Take it from this present reactive documentation structure to a real planning and scheduling system. And do it inside SAP because that's what the parent company uses. Let's keep that as our hub, have everybody learn how to do it. Next one is, we think for as far as standard maintenance training needs to be developed. You've got to figure out what they need to know. You need a resource skills matrix for every single person in mechanical and electrical. Basically, of who knows what now. I should be able to open up a piece of paper and have names of everybody, major pieces of equipment in that plant, who knows how to do what, so I can start matching people up at the right place at the right time. Operators need to get together. I've seen this everywhere I go, and have some standard operating procedures. I've been in offshore oil platforms where I could tell the day a new operator came in on a new hedge to run the next week, because all the numbers started to work. And you got it, and it's always hard to get 2 groups together to say, you know what, why do you run it this way, why do you run it this way, what's the best way to run it? So I think that's going to help. And again, for the standard maintenance, this is the hardest one. I would use the with my college. I've had my students going through everything they can on ABB, trying to find videos and stuff of how to fix things. We have been somewhat successful. We found a couple. I think we can spend some more time doing that. But given the fact you're so isolated, having videos on how to do stuff might be the best way to do it. I was telling some of you it was a joke. My washing machine broke a month or so ago, and I went on YouTube and found a video. I took the whole damn thing apart. I figured out what part was wrong. I ordered a new part on the internet. I put it in and I put it back together again. Now the first time I put it back together again, I put it back together again wrong, but I got it right the second time. It was simple. So I think we need that type of training maybe because it's got to be, because it's just, again, you don't have the economy of scale to have a training department. You don't have the economy of scale to get these people to come all the way to, Drake, Arizona. It's too expensive. So I don't have all the answers on this one, but we're going to have to do a lot more research. But we've got to get the training for some these people somehow. And I know you've worked a little bit with the Yavapai College. I think we may have to work more with Yavapai College to do that. The last one. selling it all in the warehouse into the yard. I would take everything, put it in the yard. The door needs to become open. I need to go to the warehouse and walk in the door. There can be a caged area inside where that can be secure, but the door should be open and I should be able to walk in. And again, we can do a study next semester if you want to figure out how that should be manned. If you need somebody off shift or not off shift, if you set something up electronically. I know I can walk into any building on campus. All I have to do is pull out this and slide it in the door, and I can be tracked. Everybody knows what's going on. It's pretty simple technology, not expensive. Or we can figure out maybe we need somebody off shift to be there because the number of parts that are being pulled at night, plus that person could be doing all the kitting for the next day's work. We can do a study to figure out the economic viability of which way to do it. So that's going to be pretty simple to find out. But we need to integrate that warehouse into the rest of the plant. They are not Home Depot. You know, and right now they're Home Depot. So we figure we can do that. That's it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Very interesting. I knew we were bad, but I didn't know we were.
You have some challenges. You have some challenges. A lot of it is due to location. You know, like the training of the people here. The fact that after the commissioning, you've been chasing it since the commissioning. That's where you lost it. At that particular point, you lost it. You've been chasing it ever since. And you gotta figure out a way. I think with the recommendations, everybody takes a deep breath. You stop smoking. We put together a big plan and go back and try and capture this and get it back on. Here's the important thing. I've been doing this since 1979. I'm 65. I've been doing this since 1979. 79. I have gone through this cycle over and over and over and over and over again. And the only reason I kept my consulting company going for 30 years was I could solve these problems. You're not unique. This is not unique. I see this. When I walked in, I looked at this and I went, oh, I've seen this 100 times. You can get off the cycle. I mean, I wouldn't have had a company for all these years if I couldn't pull companies off the cycle. It's doable. Is it easy? No. You have a harder time here, going back to the training probably more than anything else, and the fact that you got to do the root cause analysis and figure out why the plant's acting the way it is. You know, maybe it's design flaws in the beginning, I don't know. Operator flaw, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But what I'm saying is, you can get there. I mean, I've done this over and over and over again. I walk in, I look at this place, and I go, typical. Typical what I see. And thanks to companies like you, I've had a very good career.
No, and I guess benchmarking and getting all the stats from it will help you determine exactly why why they're working the way they are, why they're failing in the different areas.
In the report,
Exactly.
I put in that I think you could get there to the point where you would be pretty far down the road in 6 months. If I went in with a full group of people, I used to go in and turn plants in 16 weeks, from 80% emergency work to 20%, the whole 80-20 rule. We could usually flip it in 16 weeks. But I was working with, full staff of people. We were working full-time, 10, 12-hour days,
So light at the end of the tunnel is really getting to the planning. When you're planning, you're at the 80% corrective rather than the
It's
emergency.
two things. As long as your plant's eating yourself, no matter how hard we plan, we're still gonna have breaks because we have to. You have to do the root cause analysis and figure out. But again, if we were doing more maintenance planning, we would say, why did I go do the same job 3 times this week? Right now, we don't know that because we don't do any analysis of the work orders when we're done. They just get closed out and no one ever looks at them again. And everybody goes, yeah, it seems like we're coming back here doing this too much. We need to really find out, why am I coming back here doing this 3 times a week? Damn it, just fix it. Just fix it. But the people out there in the field have to have the management support to fix it. They can't be said, hey, put a rubber glove on it, because I got another job you gotta go to. Because they're just gonna put a rubber glove on it. You have to decide as managers. You wanna fix it right? You wanna fix it once? Or do you wanna put a rubber glove on it and then run to the next one and put a rubber glove on it because you're telling them to? That's why as managers, you gotta figure out, number one, what's your philosophy around the plant? I know when I worked for Exxon, I had the authority to shut down the platform. As a consultant, I had the authority to shut down the platform. If I thought it wasn't being done right, one button. As a result, everything got done right. It's just a company that does everything right in the front end. So you gotta decide, what are you gonna do? This is easy to get off. Like I said, I've seen it over and over again. Well, not easy to get off. It's possible to get off. And at first, it's very painful. It's like quitting smoking, seriously.
I can't imagine it being any more painful than what we currently experience.
Here's what you're
Because a
doing.
number of us have experience in operations that don't operate this way. And that's been the frustrating part over the last couple of years, is to get to the point we're at today, is how do we get off of that cycle?
You can't keep doing what you're doing.
No.
That's not an option.
And that's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. You can't
Because
keep doing what you're doing.
A number of us recognize that we've gotta get better. We can't keep doing it this way. So,
I understand there's a whole science of management that we're not benefiting of. And how common is that in the other industries you work with, and how easy is to translate that science into real actions and changing things around?
It's not hard as long as, the company I first started working for, then my consulting company, when I work with people, like a supervisory training, I do it in the field. If you just have classrooms for people, you're not gonna get anywhere. It just goes in one ear and out the other. And most of the people who work in heavy industry and stuff, they're not classroom people anyway. So I give a little bit of classroom, and then I'm in the field. I'm walking around with supervisors, and Lando's giving an assignment. He hands somebody something and says, yeah, go do this. I'll look at him and I'll say, that's assignment. Come on. Let's go check on this guy 2 hours and see what he's doing. And you walk out there and he's doing something else. And I look at Lando and say, do I have a point? Huh? Am I telling you what you need to do? If you're out in the field and you're constantly seeing things, saying, hey, this is a condition we don't want to see here. This is what we talked about. If you do that, you start changing people's lives.
That the culture trickles down or trickles
Oh.
up? How?
You brought something up that's really good. This is really essential. I've done 2 types of consulting jobs. One of them I like and one I don't. It's up to the client. I've gone places where I've done things to people, where I walked in and just beat the hell out of them. They had a top-down management approach. They wanted to keep a top-down management approach. They didn't want to have it from the bottom up. I've been to the National Labor Relations Board. I've beat up a couple of unions over there. I prefer to work this way from the bottom up. We need to get, and one of the things I always analyze, management is situational. I have worked some places where I walked in and said, these people have checked out, all they want is a coloring book. If I don't kick them, they're not gonna work. And boy, I put together a work control system where I could control them from the day they walked, second they walked in that door, till the second they walked out, I was gonna get my pound of productivity. And I'd get it, and I could figure out a control system to do it. What you have to have is lots of supervisors and lots of sticks, because the minute you're not smacking them, they're not working. The other one is, and you can do this only if you have a good workforce, which you do, you start at the bottom. And I say we start at the bottom when we get all of the mechanics and the electrical people and everybody else, all the wage people in this plant involved in it from the very beginning, and we build it up, including getting the wage people involved in doing some of the planning. If I'm in the electrical group and I finish my jobs early and I've got a half an hour left in the day, I want to see those mechanics grab a couple of work orders and say, hey, I'm going to go plan these jobs. It just shouldn't be for the planner. And then they can take them, they know more than anything else. They go on the job site, they're looking at it, they plan the job, they figure out the parts. What does that do to elevate their role? One thing I always use is Herzberg's 2 factors theory, which is the only academic thing I'll throw in here, but basically says, and I've done this over and over again, seen it, that you can give people money, you can do sorts of everything. All that does is get them up to neutral so they stop complaining. But it doesn't make them motivated at all. You can have, now these are things you need to get to know. You have to have a good working environment. You have to have good coworkers. You need a good supervisor. You need a nice place. And they have to be reasonably paid so that they're not complaining. But that doesn't motivate them. The only thing that motivates them is if I walk up to one of my workers and say, hey, I want you to do this, and it's something that expands their job, enriches their job, expands their job, where they go, wow, they really think I'm important here. I get to do something besides just this. I get to go plan something. Then all of a sudden they realize, wow, I'm in this game. We can do that here. You have good people who really want to do a good job. I didn't meet anybody who was a slacker. I met one slacker in the field, and it was a contractor. Yeah? Who I would have smacked and thrown out of the plant in 30 seconds to get irritated. You have good people who want to do a good job. And I think as long as we go to them in January and we say, hey, here's our program, we want to do it from the bottom up, we want you involved in this thing, I think we can be really successful. But we need to do it with them, because you have quality people who deserve that type of respect. And that's not everyone, you know, it's all situational. If you had people I thought needed to get smacked, I'd be the first one to say, let's just line them up and control them. But that's not the case. They don't need to be supervised that much. One thing is when we come back next semester, I'm gonna do some workshop on, I did one job with Exxon, which was the most successful job I've ever done, and developed for an entire oil field, self-directed work teams where there were no supervisors. It was the most motivated group of people I've ever worked with in my entire life. They took the production of that place through the ceiling. But everybody showed up in the morning and said, this is my field. The supervisors became the people doing the root cause analysis. Every time they ran into a problem, they went, hey, we got the plant to run? So they laddered it over to what were the former supervisors and said, you go figure out why we're doing this. We're seeing a pattern, we're running the plant, you have the time to go take care of this. And basically the roles changed, totally different plant. Totally different. It was the most productive place I've ever worked. We were so successful that Exxon turned it into a Disneyland where everybody from all the other fields were coming and doing tours. Because we really got it down. It took us 2 years to do it. But they had the best trained workforce I've ever seen.
Do you have a proposal already or a plan, a program?
No, I just want to see if you have, well, we can put one together for these 5 things. 4 of them. You have to figure out how you want the philosophy of running the plant.
Mhm.
We can certainly give you our opinion. But for the other 4, yeah, we can put together one.
What's your opinion on philosophy?
Huh?
What's your opinion on the philosophy? Or how?
Oh, you pay up front, and you do everything right. You do pay up front and you do everything right. If not, you're gonna pay more, you're gonna spend more money, you're just chasing it down the road. And you're driving all your managers crazy, and you're driving all your workers crazy. And this is how workers look at it. This is how I look at my job as maintenance. If I'm a worker for you and I show up in the morning, and I show up, say, at 7 o'clock, ready to go, and you've got the parts kitted in the warehouse, and everything's organized, and production knows what's going on, and everybody's working together, and I get that kit, and by 7:50 in the morning, I'm working, I'm tools in hand. What I'm saying to myself is, damn, this is not my place. I'll work hard here, these people are good. But if I show up in the morning, and it's total chaos, and I don't put a tool in my hand until 10 o'clock, because I'm busy planning stuff, that's showing a big neon sign flashing that says, we don't care. And if you don't care, I don't care, as a worker. Because they're watching you constantly saying, what are you showing me? And if you're showing me that you can't plan and schedule your work, then you can't get it together. As a worker, why should I get it together? So it's simple, it's up front. If you do it up front, it's just everybody in your organization, we do it right. We get it up front, we do not believe in chaos. And when we see a problem, we really fix it. Everything smooths out. Everything starts to smooth out. If you don't, you just drive everybody crazy and you spend more money. Literally, if you do it the way you do it, you're spending more money. Look at the money you're spending now. Look at the money you're spending on vacuum trucks. We could go through all the money that you're spending now, just fix it. Then you won't, the only people who would be impacted by what we're doing are the vacuum truck people. They may go out of business. You know, you got a couple of companies out there that just love the way you're running your business. They love it. If they were in here right now, they'd be freaking out. They'd be going, don't change anything. We like it this way. You're sending me millions of dollars. So where do we get to do the money for some of this stuff? We take it from your vendors that are getting it now. Oh, hi, Brian.